what you can't get away from is the supernatural element of Christianity. And Christmas is supernatural. Another atheist who actually became a Christian, fairly smart guy. I read him early on just because I knew I was supposed to, and I didn't understand any of it, right? But that's kind of what you do. Like you get a little taste here and there of things, and then later on it makes more and more sense. But he wrote a book called Miracles, and here's what this author says. He says, every event which might claim to be a miracle is, in the last resort, something presented to our senses. Right? Something seen, something heard, something touched, something smelled, something tasted. But our senses are not infallible. If anything extraordinary or extraordinary seems to have happened, we can always say that we've been the victims of an illusion. If we hold a philosophy which excludes the supernatural, this is what we shall also this is what we will always say. And then he says this. What we learn from experience depends on the kind of philosophy we bring to that experience. It is therefore useless to appeal to experience before we have settled, as well as we can, the philosophical question. And some of you are like, what? What he's saying is this. If you have an anti-supernatural bias that you bring into an experience, even if it's supernatural, you might not recognize it as such. You have to deal with your biases. See, Christmas is supernatural. Now, what makes it plausible supernatural? There's implausible supernatural, and there's plausible supernatural. Plausible supernatural, in my view, is when something is rooted not just in a private experience, but it's actually rooted in history. So not only is Christmas supernatural, Christmas is historical. Look in verse 18, and we blew right past it, but this is very important. Verse 18 says, now the birth of Jesus Christ took place in this way. Do you see that? Something about the Bible that's important to understand. Specifically the Gospels. The Gospels were written just a short time after the resurrection, okay? So 10, 15 years. And when they were written, they were presented to the public as documents ready for verification or denial. Meaning, they were written in such a way, and we learned this in the Gospel of Luke, who actually said, I'm writing this for my buddy who's trying to understand all this Christianity thing. So they're written to be challenged. They're written to be explored. They're written to be investigated. The Gospels writers are called evangelists. And an evangelist was a person who literally was a messenger of something that took place in history. That's how the word was originally used. So the idea is this. The gospel writers say, we're presenting something to you that is a euangelion, that is a good news, that is a gospel, not a private experience. There was a word they used for guys who went out in the desert, put some herbs in their body and had some kind of hallucination and then formed a religion. There was a word for that. There was a word for the intellects of the day who kind of through reasoning and rationale and blending this worldview and that philosophy all together and then brought together an idea. There was a word for that. They didn't use those words. They used the word and described themselves as an angel, an evangelion. Let me give you the quote because it makes more sense. An angel is a herald or a messenger that brought news of a real event that occurred in history, okay? An event with specific and direct implications for the hearers of that message. So here's the idea. So your town is fighting, or your province or your country is fighting another country. And the townspeople know it's their relatives, it's their dads, it's their brothers. They're fighting. They're on pins and needles. And they didn't have text back then. They had email, but it wasn't always reliable. They didn't have anything. Nothing. So the only way to find out what was going on is this angel, this herald, this messenger would come and report back on who was winning. Like, what's the score at halftime? Like, what's going on? So they would come back and say, this is what happened. We're telling you news of this thing that happened, and it has direct impact on your life. This is the word that's used to describe the good news, the gospel. Same word. Because Jesus came into history, therefore it has universal application for all peoples, for all times, in all places. This isn't just some dude who found some mushrooms in the desert, right, and had an experience. No, this is an event